A new name is being whispered in the corridors of royal watches. Not William, not Catherine, not even George, but Lady Louise Windsor. For years she has stood quietly in the background, half inside the royal world, half outside of it, the daughter of Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, a young woman whose discretion has earned her both affection and intrigue. But now, as the monarchy grows smaller, the question is growing louder. Could this thoughtful, composed young woman, who inherited her grandfather's carriage, his discipline, and his quiet sense of duty, become the unexpected future face of the British royal family? Before we dive in, there's something I need to share with you. Over the past few days, thousands have watched these stories unfold, but most haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, I invite you now to join us. Subscribe to Crownverse so you never miss the next chapter in this unfolding royal history. She was born Lady Louise Alice Elizabeth Mary Mountbatten Windsor on the 8th of November, 2003. The name alone carried heritage from both sides of her lineage. Mountbatten from her grandfather, the late Prince Philip, and Windsor from the dynasty her grandmother ruled for 7 decades. But the story of Lady Louise began far from the limelight. Unlike her royal cousins, she arrived at a time when the monarchy was learning to blend tradition with privacy. Her parents, then the Earl and Countess of Wessex, made a radical decision. They would not style their children as prince or princess. They wanted them to grow up as privately as possible, without the heavy weight of royal duty hanging over their childhood. The decision was supported by Queen Elizabeth II herself, who admired her youngest son's wish to give his children a normal upbringing. From that moment, Louise's path diverged. While Prince William and Prince Harry were raised in preparation for a lifetime of public service, Louise was raised for something else: choice. Her life would be guided by education, not expectation. At St. Mary's School, Ascot, classmates remember her as calm and graceful, uninterested in drawing attention to herself. Even during family events, trooping the colour, royal weddings, and jubilee celebrations, she was always there, but never at the centre. While photographers swarmed other royals, she seemed content to blend into the background, smiling softly beside her brother James, now the Earl of Wessex. But one passion did draw her into the spotlight: carriage driving. It was a sport she shared with her grandfather, Prince Philip, who not only revived the discipline within Britain, but helped codify its international rules. In the dusty arenas of Windsor Great Park, she would ride beside him, a teenage girl, guiding ponies through obstacle gates with the same precision and calm that once defined the Duke himself. After his death in 2021, she inherited his carriage and driving ponies, a deeply symbolic gesture. It was not jewelry, not property, but purpose that he passed down. In the BBC documentary, Prince Philip, The Royal Family Remembers, Louise spoke with quiet affection. "When I talk about carriage driving," she said, his eyes would light up. He was so excited when he talked about it. It was a line that moved many, not for its grandeur, but for its honesty. It revealed something rare in royal storytelling: intimacy, unguarded and genuine. In many ways, Lady Louise embodies a paradox. She is royal blood, yet lives like a private citizen. She is now 21 years old, studying English literature at the University of St. Andrews, the same Scottish university where her cousins, Prince William and Catherine, first met. She is said to love Shakespeare, theatre, and long walks near the cliffs overlooking the North Sea. At St. Andrews, she blends into the crowd, no security bubble, no Constantia Magia glare. When her name appears in student society lists or campus productions, it is usually as Louise Windsor, without title or fanfare. That anonymity is not a mistake. It's a choice. Her parents have always insisted that both Louise and her brother live normal lives, even if they attend occasional royal events. When she turned 18 in 2021, she was legally entitled to use the style Her Royal Highness, Princess Louise of Edinburgh, but she declined. That decision, simple, almost invisible, said everything. It meant that for now, she is not seeking royal status, but independence. And yet, royal watchers have noticed something else: the grace with which she carries herself when she does appear. At the Platinum Jubilee, she arrived quietly, dressed modestly, yet with unmistakable poise. At the late Queen's funeral, her composure caught the public eye, and at King Charles's coronation, in a pale silk dress by Susanna London and a Jane Taylor hat, she looked every bit the image of the modern young royal confident, dignified, and effortlessly elegant. It was that moment that sparked whispers within the press. Royal commentator Christopher Wilson described her as a dark horse contender for the new face of the monarchy. He noted that she charms all who meet her and could become a decorative and useful asset to the royal team. The phrase, dark horse stuck it, reflected what many royal followers were already sensing: that the quietest member of her generation might one day step forward. The question, of course, is, should she? King Charles's monarchy is smaller than any in living memory. Between age, health, and controversy, the number of working royals has dwindled. The Duke and Duchess of Gloucester are now in their 80s. The Duke of Kent is 90. Princess Alexandra rarely undertakes engagements. Even Princess Anne, the King's tireless sister, has admitted the workload is enormous. With Prince Harry's departure and Prince Andrew's exile from public duties, the active corps has shrunk to barely half a dozen. Public engagements that once filled the calendar of a dozen family members are now divided among a few. The monarchy's motto, service and duty, depends on people willing to perform it. But who will do that when this current generation retires? Some suggest Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie could return to royal duty. But their father's scandals complicate that possibility. Others propose the next generation, George, Charlotte, Louis, but they are years away from adulthood, which leaves a gap and a question. Could Lady Louise Windsor, the reserved student with an old soul and unblemished reputation, become the one to fill it? To answer that, we must look at her temperament. Louise is not known for social media appearances, fashion sponsorships, or public statements. In an era where celebrity dominates royal conversation, she represents something else, the virtue of discretion. She listens more than she speaks. She observes before she acts. She seems cut from the same cloth as her late grandmother, who once said, "It's always best to keep one's counsel." Observers describe her as poised, empathetic, and deeply respectful of the monarchy's quiet dignity. She's not a reformer, not an activist, but rather an inheritor of a quieter form of service, one that doesn't need hashtags to be relevant. That makes her rare and valuable. In a monarchy fighting to retain moral authority, a figure like Louise could bridge the gap between the institution's old-world discipline and modern relatability. There is also the symbolic connection to Prince Philip, whose influence still lingers in the family's sense of identity. He was not only a consort, but a mentor to generations of royals, and in many ways, Louise carries that flame forward. When she competes in carriage-driving competitions, it's not spectacle, it's homage. At the Royal Windsor Horse Show, she's often seen driving the same carriage Philip once used. Crowds cheer not because of her celebrity, but because of the story she represents. A granddaughter keeping her grandfather's passion alive, and that imagery matters. In a time when the royal family's image has been shaken by controversy, the sight of a young woman quietly continuing a noble tradition is powerful. It's a reminder that the monarchy, at its heart, is not about scandal or spectacle, but continuity. Still, speculation about her future role must be tempered with reality. No official statement from Buckingham Palace, or from the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, suggests that Lady Louise will take on royal duties. In interviews, her mother Sophie has been clear. "We try to bring them up with the understanding that they are likely to have to work for a living." It's an honest, pragmatic statement that reflects the King's broader strategy of streamlining the monarchy. In this new model, only those directly supporting the sovereign are expected to work full-time. That includes the King, Queen, Prince, and Princess of Wales, and a small supporting circle like Princess Anne and the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. Everyone else, including the next generation, will have freedom. So, if Lady Louise ever becomes a working royal, it will not be because duty was imposed upon her. It will be because she chose it. Her choices so far suggest balance. Though unassuming, she is not indifferent. She occasionally attends military-themed events, has been photographed with army cadet units, and according to reports, has fallen in love with the discipline and teamwork of that environment. If she were ever to formally join the military, she would be the first female royal to do so since Queen Elizabeth II, who served as a mechanic during the Second World War. That prospect excites some observers who see in Louise not only tradition, but also quiet courage. But for now, she seems focused on her studies. Friends at St. Andrews describe her as bright, grounded, and deeply kind. She volunteers for student projects, occasionally attends theatre groups, and is often seen walking alone or cycling to class. She does not use her title. In every sense, she is living as an ordinary young woman, something few royals of her generation can claim. There are even whispers of romance, gentle, unconfirmed, and almost old-fashioned. Reports from The Sun suggest she is close to Felix da Silverclamp, a fellow student who has occasionally been seen with her and her mother at equestrian events. No official confirmation has ever been given, and the palace maintains its silence. Still, the idea that Lady Louise could build a normal university relationship without the intrusive press that haunted previous generations feels almost revolutionary in itself. So why is the media suddenly turning its attention toward her? The answer may lie in what she represents: stability in a time of uncertainty. With public trust in the monarchy fluctuating, and younger generations questioning its relevance, Lady Louise embodies a quieter version of royal purpose. She is not loud, nor is she radical, but she is authentic. Her life, ordinary in many ways, dignified in others, shows that it is possible to carry royal heritage without the performance of celebrity. For the monarchy, that's a priceless quality. Because the greatest threat to the royal institution today isn't rebellion or scandal, it's apathy. The risk that the public simply stops caring. Figures like Louise, who blend humility with heritage, may help prevent that. Royal historian Sarah Gristwood once said, "Every generation needs a Windsor who feels accessible, yet untouchable, someone who reminds the public that royalty can be both human and symbolic." For a long time, that role belonged to Princess Diana. Later, it shifted to Catherine, Princess of Wales. In the decades to come, it may fall to Lady Louise if she wants it, and yet, her greatest strength may be her refusal to chase it, her reluctance to claim a title, her insistence on privacy, and her quiet loyalty to family values. All these qualities make her more compelling than any publicity campaign could. In the broader context of King Charles's reign, Louise represents the monarchy's unspoken Plan B, the reserve generation. Not heirs, but options. Not forced into service, but available should the time come. As the king's model of monarchy grows leaner, the family's next phase will depend on individuals who can step forward if needed, with grace, education, and the ability to connect to modern Britain. Louise fits that description perfectly. Her potential is already the subject of royal speculation columns and TV panels. Some suggest that once she graduates, she might take on part-time patronages or represent youth-oriented causes. Others imagine her joining the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme, continuing her grandfather's legacy in a new era. If that happens, she would not only honor Prince Philip's memory, she would bridge the gap between tradition and relevance, the very balance her generation must master. And yet, for all the excitement, the decision remains entirely hers. When asked if her children might someday become working royals, Sophie once smiled and said, "We'll see. But for now, they're just doing what normal young people do." It was an answer as carefully measured as any the late Queen might have given, because in the House of Windsor, timing is everything. Duty does not call everyone at once. Sometimes, it waits quietly until the right moment and the right person steps into its light. If that moment ever arrives for Lady Louise, she will bring something the monarchy sorely needs: credibility without ego. Her story, the ordinary student who could have claimed a princess's crown but didn't, is itself a form of moral authority. She represents the generation of royals who serve not because they must, but because they choose to. And in a world that now values authenticity above all, that might be exactly what keeps the monarchy alive. Whether she chooses the path of public service or private life, her influence is already being felt. Through her grace at state events, her compassion in interviews, her quiet connection to her grandfather's memory, Lady Louise Windsor has become, in her own way, a symbol of quiet strength. She doesn't need a title to matter. And perhaps, that, in itself, is the lesson the modern monarchy needed most. As dusk falls over Windsor, the wind carries the sound of hooves across the great park. A young woman drives her carriage through the open field. The same path her grandfather once rode, her silhouette framed against the horizon. There are no photographers here, no fanfare, just motion, tradition, and quiet resolve. If this is the future of the royal family, it is one built not on spectacle, but sincerity. And maybe that's what the public has been waiting for all along, a new kind of royal grace. Defined not by glamour, but by purpose. Because sometimes, the person least seeking the crown becomes the one most worthy of its legacy. What do you think? Could Lady Louise Windsor, the quiet dark horse of the House of Windsor, one day become its most unexpected strength? Or is her power meant to remain precisely where it is, in her choice to stay quietly, gracefully, outside the throne's light?